All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Alamo Vaudeville On Air. My name is Ashton Holloway, and we have a very special guest today. He is a TV personality and the executive producer of several programs on broadcast and cable television. Give it up for Brian Balthazar. Brian, how are you doing, my friend?
Good. How you doing, Ashton? Great to see you.
I'm doing amazing. I'm grateful to be here with you and to be able to sit down and pick your brain a little bit and get to know how you got into the position that you're in today. So let's kind of start from the beginning just to kind of give the fans insight on where you began. But how did you get your start in the entertainment industry?
Gosh, well, there's a lot of, some people talk about, one big break. I think I had a lot of very small breaks that contributed to whatever you call it, a path that led me here. But I was in and out of different jobs for a long time in my 20s. It was everything that wasn't in show business. I tried it for like 3 to 6 months when I was in my earlier years. And then I finally got a job as a freelance writer. I was singing and dancing on a boat at the same time and like running around doing all these things. But I got an article. I booked an interview with an anchor at the local NBC News station up in Boston. That's where I was living at the time. And I interviewed the guy there. And as I was leaving, his name was Randy Price, wonderful guy, still friends with him now. That was 20 some years ago. I interviewed him. And as I was leaving the building, I passed by a bulletin board. This is before everyone had cell phones where you could just pull up, job listings. And I saw on the wall that they were looking for a writer to work the overnight shift. And I'm like, well, sounds kind of interesting. And I went into that and I worked as many double shifts as I could because I knew that whoever I wanted to see me or to promote me probably wasn't working the overnights, So I would try and work as many doubles or anytime anyone got sick during the day, which was plenty of times, So I did that and finally found my way to the daytime shift. I did a lot of work there and did a lot of production. I've been a producer more than I've been on air, I guess, in years, you might say. I was there first. And then I took my tape of my work, sent it to MSNBC and got a job there. And I moved down to the New York City area. And then from there, I led me to the Today Show. Simultaneously, I started doing stand-up comedy and doing, feature stories and writing still. And that kind of evolved into doing some TV appearances. And then I started a website for pop culture at the time called Pop Goes the Week. And that would lead to more. Like a combination of doing stand-up and doing reporting kind of gave me, and knowing so many people in the news business gave me an opportunity to do more shows. And that kind of continued for many years. And then what that led to is hosting and guest hosting, substitute hosting. I don't say no to much. I really do love the experience of trying all different things. And I'm not a snob about how big or little the show is or the money is. I just think it's so much fun. I enjoy it so much that I generally just like to say yes to as much as I can. And that's the short version of how we got here. That might have felt long to some of you, but that's the short version of how I got here.
No, that's awesome. I mean, it definitely sounds like there was a lot of hard work and dedication that went into getting this perfected and, putting in that time into your craft. And it's great to hear that, you put in that time to really show the work, and the fact that you're able to just work through so much and be able to even work on these smaller shows and not feel like it's less than you. Like that right there really shows your commitment to the craft. But I am kind of curious though, like how has the industry changed from when you first started to now?
Well, in so many ways. I mean, just how people watch is, I started in the business of television, I would say in around 1998. And, this is when the internet was fairly new. I mean, it wasn't brand new, but it was fairly new. And we certainly didn't have cell phones where we were, we could barely watch video on the internet at the time. Like, it was not an easy viewing experience. So to think now that like how much of our consumption of media, whether it's news or entertainment or whatever it may be, I mean, Facebook didn't exist, Instagram didn't exist, TikTok didn't exist. So just how we watch and what we watch is so different. And I think, if you had told me back then, it would have sounded amazing. And then there are just so many more places to look. And those are all wonderful things, but it also provide a lot of great challenges for people who are trying to get their message out there. Whether you're just a single person trying to promote yourself or your work, or a big company trying to get a show that you spent millions of dollars on. We're all facing that challenge of how do you rise to the top or like break through in a world that is so saturated with choices and options. It's a challenge for everybody.
For sure. And I've even come to realize with music and entertainment, there's so much time and money that goes into the marketing aspect. And
Mhm.
social media is such a strong platform nowadays.
Yeah.
With TikTok and Instagram, you can do so much with such a small platform, but it really is about building a dedicated fan base. And not only
Yeah.
that, but working on projects with people that are dedicated to working and actually making it successful. And that's what I've realized with some of the work that you've done, from what I've seen with my research, that you have been doing this for years on years. And you
All
have
right, now
worked
easy. Don't make me sound like I'm 90, Ashton. You just calm down. Jeez.
No,
I
but
still have some hair
seriously.
left.
But you've really done so much. It's honestly impressive to see the resume that you've built. But
Oh,
what have been some of your favorite projects to produce, or some of your favorite projects that you've worked on?
well, let's see. I launched the 4th hour of the Today Show with Kathy Lee and Hoda, and that was a really wonderful experience. Um, I think I had stayed on that show. I had been with the Today Show for many years already before there was even a 4th hour. There was no 4th hour at the time. There were only 2 hours, and then shortly after that, 3, and then they added a fourth. And I enjoyed that. I didn't stay much longer than a year because an opportunity came my way to work on HGTV shows, and it was just a matter of the timing. I'm still very close to Kathy Lee and Hoda, who just left the Today Show after a really amazing run. And so I kept those relationships. Those friendships are what really matter the most, right? Work is wonderful, but if it's at the expense of your personal relationships, then it's really not. It's not. Then it's just work, and work is more than that, I think, on this earth. But anyway, so I enjoyed that very much. But then I went to HGTV and worked on home renovation shows and some Food Network shows and Travel Channel shows. That was really fun. I then went and briefly spent some time at The View as a co-executive producer of The View. And I one of the kind of guiding the rules that I've given myself is that I really want to be enjoying what I'm doing. And at that moment, it was going back to a daily live show experience. And as a producer, I just felt like I wanted to go back to doing some of the other things I was doing. It didn't allow me to do anything on air. And so I missed that very much. So then I went back to HGTV. And then I subsequently worked on many shows there that were fun. I would say most recently, I loved being a guest host on Page Six TV. That's no longer on, but and People Now, which is a streaming entertainment show, being a guest host there was fun. And I loved being on Human versus Hamster, which is currently on Max and Magnolia Network. And that was a huge competition show. It was the biggest production I think I know as a co-host, Sarah Sherman from SNL is the host, and Kyle Brandt. From Good Morning Football. For me, as one of the co-hosts, it was the biggest production I've ever been part of, and it was just spectacular to look around, and I couldn't believe I was there. I couldn't believe it.
That's amazing. Wow. And, the main thing that did stand out to me was the Today Show. That was what I saw first from you. And then even like Human versus Hamster, seeing that now on HBO, that's an amazing opportunity. And what an amazing platform to be on, right? But
Yeah.
I am a little curious as well. So what was the difference between working on the Today Show and The View?
I mean, I think primarily the biggest difference, they're very similar in that they're daily shows that are keeping viewers up to date on recent things happening in the news. And whereas The View is exactly what it says, it's aiming to give you an opinion. It's an opinion-based show. Like, there are 5 people most of the time on the show, each providing their own unique point of view on that story in the news. Whereas the Today Show, more so then, I think there's a little bit more opinion on the Today Show now than there used to be, but truly is still meant to be a news delivery system. I mean, I think when they give an opinion on the Today Show now, it's about a feature story, like, is coffee good for you or bad for you? But when it comes to like the actual hard news, they try not to insert any opinion in there and keep it very objective for the viewer to then decide. So that was the major difference. And then there's always differences in, you know, when a show is very much defined, and the tone and the energy of a show is very much defined by who's hosting it and who's on it and who's working behind the scenes. So there are so many like small differences that contribute to that. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. It's usually a bit of both. Like that, you know, you love this about one show and you don't love this, vice versa. It's like there's always little differences. I would say primarily the goal and the vision of both shows are a little bit different, as I said.
Wow. Oh my God. I wouldn't have even realized that going into this. But so as far as like pop culture, right? Because I mean, obviously those are shows that talk about up to date like stories that are going on in the news right now. But what are your thoughts on pop culture nowadays? How has that been defined? And what is your mindset on the way that pop culture is being delivered nowadays?
Yeah. Well, you know, back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, I think pop culture was once more defined by not just what we were seeing on television and what was happening in entertainment. Like they've kind of blurred now. But back then, like video games were part of pop culture, like Pac-Man and Rubik's Cube. Toys were part of pop culture, and they still are. Now, though, on social media at least, and on TV shows, when you talk about pop culture, you're generally talking about what's happening with celebrities, and often sometimes not even like big celebrities. Often sometimes, I don't like to use the ABC list kind of thing, but like maybe there's as much pop culture discussion about a Real Housewife who may not necessarily have a big name compared to like an Angelina Jolie or Brad Pitt. But like housewife chatter has become a big part of pop culture, whereas that just wasn't a thing once because the show wasn't there. And so reality television has really greatly impacted what we talk about when it comes to pop culture. So, and I also think it's a very, it still tends to be led by a younger audience. And I'm being older, you know, so I'm less part of that discussion. And now I'm a little bit more part of what's happening in the business of entertainment, how that affects the bigger picture, just also because I've worked so much in the business. So I have a slightly, no one has a 100% accurate sense of what's happening in the business at any given moment, but I have a little bit more perspective about it just based on my life experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, there may be somebody listening right now that may take inspiration from the work that you've done and, you know, may want to also get into this line of work as well. But is there any advice that you can give to any aspiring television host or producers that may be listening right now?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the great things that's so different now about back when I started was that it's so easy to make your own content back then. I really wanted to be a reporter back then. I couldn't, you know, you need to have a demo reel, as they call it, that demonstrates, hence the word demo, your work. And at the time, it was costly. Cameras were not on your phones. They were, you know, if anything, the cheapest camera was kind of a bulky camera. So my introduction into being on camera was a little bit more through stand-up comedy and also through doing like one segment, dub that over, like get that out there, but also writing. I did a lot of writing. So I guess message there was like, even if you think you're not near New York or you're not near LA, most people I think of a certain generation know this already, but you can make content for anywhere. And people, if you want to be on television, the people that can make that decision and invite you to be on their program are going to want to see and hear what you are like. And so that means making videos. You don't have to love every one of them. You know, but you have to make something for them to see it. Don't wait for them to ask to see it. Make it and put it up there so it's not difficult for them to spot you and see. It doesn't even matter if initially you don't get many followers, because as you know, sometimes it's just one video that gets you to break through. There's often no rhyme or reason. It's timing, it's algorithm, it's luck, it's talent. It's a lot of things. And you just have to keep going. You have to love it enough to keep going and know that it's what you want to do. And don't give up so easily. It's going to be tempting. It's going to be tempting to quit. I mean, even as we speak, I may have a history of things that I've loved doing and I'm still working, but at the same time, I don't have a guarantee of what my next thing will be. I don't know whether someone else will say yes to something else I signed up to do or ask to do or audition to do. So you just have to learn to accept the rejection, because it isn't personal most of the time. You know, sometimes it feels very personal. but you just have to accept that this is what you're signing up for because you love so much when you're doing it, you know?
Yeah, and I love that you say that, to learn to accept rejection, because that's something that I have struggled with
Yeah.
recently, being in entertainment and doing podcasting. And I mean, even in music, sometimes things don't work out the way that you want them to, and you just have to be able to just take the hit and keep moving forward. And I think
Absolutely.
perseverance is the main thing, and that's the main key here if you want to be successful in entertainment. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that you have been able to show over the years and years of your experience working in the industry. But what have been some struggles that you had to deal with when you first joined the industry, or I mean, even now, and how
Yeah.
did you overcome it?
There's still, I mean, the tricky question, that you often get, and we talked about it, is how do you get into the business? And I wish there was one easy way to say this is how you do it, right? There are a million ways to do it, and sometimes those ways work and sometimes they don't. So really navigating this kind of unknown territory, even after all these years, there are certain ways that set you up for success better than others, but you don't always know. Dealing with rejection, as I said, is something that I had to deal with. And accepting that sometimes the answer is no, but you only need one yes. For me, the struggle, and by the way, understand that you don't suddenly switch that button off and say that you're okay with rejection. Like it does. I haven't reached an age where I'm suddenly okay all the time with it. You're still human, right? We want to receive positive validation. And that goes for whether you're working in show business or you're working in a corporate job. You still want to be recognized for what you do, for what your work and your worth is. And you have to find that worth within yourself and the people around you who support you. But also, sometimes it's important for me to I took one path where I didn't make rash decisions. I tried to have another job. It was paying me to, pay my rent, to pay my mortgage now, that keeps me enjoying my life and paying the bills that I need to pay, rather than I couldn't dive wholeheartedly into this and risk everything. I didn't have a lot. So there wasn't, but you just have to really persevere. For me, it's still all the things that I'm saying that young people going into the business have to do. I still have to do. I still have to work on those things. But you'll get better at it, and you'll accept more things, and you'll get more things as time goes. It's just a numbers game. Like the longer you stay in, if you're running a marathon, everyone in the marathon, let's say 1,000 people enter the marathon, right? Well, a marathon's a long run. Not 1,000 people are going to finish the marathon. So if you want to finish and you want to finish strong, just keep going. You can keep going slowly. You can start, you can stop, you can walk a little bit. But if you keep going, you're going to be one of them that ends, you're going to run that race and finish that race. But you can't win the race if you stop running. That's the bottom line.
Wow. That is a big takeaway. And thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
This has been one of the best interviews I've done. And just getting to pick your brain is so amazing. And I really just want to say thank you so much. This is awesome. I'm so grateful for the time, of course. So kind of moving forward, I mean, I know Human versus Hamsters is still on HBO Max right now, and I am a little curious about what that project looks like. So what has it been like working on set for Human versus Hamster?
Oh, it was amazing. So for those people who don't know what the show is, it's a competition show. It's kind of like American Ninja Warrior, except it's humans on huge obstacle courses, colorful obstacle courses, running the same course as a very small, shrunken down version that the hamster is also running. And hamsters, it's really designed mostly for the physical strengths of a hamster, right? Hamsters can run for a long time. They're very nimble. They can climb. They can burrow through tunnels. And so they created courses that hamsters are very good at. And humans, well, you'll have to watch and see how good or not so good they are at it. And so it's great for families. The nice thing is that everyone can watch this, and often kids will root for the hamsters, and adults may root for either. But it's just fun. It's light. It's absolutely silly in the best possible way. And it's easy because you kind of know what to expect when you're watching it, and it's a fun ride. And it was great to be. I mean, the sets are huge. I've never been around such humongous sets for long, long days. But if you're gonna have a long day at work, have that be it. It was great.
So, what have been some of your favorite obstacles from the show?
They have this one long thing called a course called Escape the Cage. It's a long obstacle course, and you have to crawl through a spiral tunnel. Then you have to go down this like these oversized dominoes that tip as you run down them, and then when you fall, because you will inevitably fall on this huge lump of padding, and then go through these little holes. And hamsters can go through anything like basically the size of their head, and humans, depending on every person's body is a little different. Sometimes it's easier than other times. Then you climb up a thing, then you go over a rope ladder that's suspended 20 feet off the ground. Then you push these oversized juice boxes that are the weight of your human body. There's like 8 of them. And then you go over a spiral wheel, climb up a rope ladder, go over these rotating. It's almost like you're in one of those skill crane machines, where because it's literally filled with oversized stuffed animals. The size of it's probably the floor plan of my house is smaller than this one section. Then you go through 2 tunnels that like go back and forth like this. And then you go on a, treadmill, which raises the gate, which makes you escape cage, and you have to do it faster than the hamster does. That's the one course. That's the end of the show, and it's so fun.
Well, I'm glad that you're the host, because if I was on that, I don't even know what I would do to get out of that situation.
You'd be great. You're young. This course favors youth and exuberance. You have energy.
Oh my God, for sure. So I know you mentioned that, long days on set, right? And I can imagine there's a lot of time and effort that goes into that. But how do you prepare for a full day of filming on set?
I don't think I'm fully prepared. I wasn't fully prepared. The truth is I would get up at like 6 or 7 in the morning. We would drive to the studio. It was probably like a 40-minute drive, and we would start shooting like 9 or 10, like hair and makeup at 9, and do 9:30 or 10, start shooting and go until, probably sometimes 9 at night, or 10 at night, and then go home. Wow. So I go to bed. I would just try and eat right and go to bed. The crew, everyone was wonderful. So it was pretty easy. I was the hamster enthusiast. So I was always providing the hamster commentary and information on hamsters. So I was trying to remember a lot of information. So I would just study it in the car and really just take care of myself, at the time, and rest. I do love a cocktail, but I didn't do that when I was there, because I was like, anything to slow me down at night, I just want to go right to bed, recharge, and get right back up.
That's awesome, Brian. Well, once again, thank you so much for your time. As we wrap up here, I do like to ask this question to every guest that I talk to. So I'm going to do it to you here today as well.
Okay.
If you can, name 3 things that you are grateful for right now.
My dogs. I can't get enough of my dogs. My family. My partner is my family, and the house that I live in, I really love. I'm in my house right now. I just have a little studio on the attic floor of my house. And so, those are my 3. The truth is, it's a hard question to answer, because I have so much to be grateful for. You don't have enough time, but those would be my top 3 picks.
That's awesome. Well, Brian, once again, thank you so much for everything today. I hope everything works out for you moving forward. Likewise. Congratulations on all the success. And if you ever need anything, you know who to reach out to.
Same here, Ashton. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's really fun talking to you.
Of course. And that'll wrap up this edition of Alamo Vaudeville On Air. My name is Ashton Holloway, and we will see you guys next time.